Hello, aspiring developers. Welcome back to today's session. Today we are going to learn objects in JavaScript. So I hope you're ready for the session. If you're ready, let's dive right in. So just like we learned about the previous data types in JavaScript, I've also learned about objects as a data type in JavaScript. So now we are going to explore more on how we can create an object, why it is essential for us to use objects, and the advantages of using websites, objects in JavaScript in web development. So now let's look at what an object is. So an object is a data type that can hold a collection of key value pairs. Unlike simple data types, you remember, let's just define a simple data type. So simple data types are just declared using the let keyword. The variable name, for my sake here, I can say my name, and equals, maybe there you can pass in a string. Sorry. So yeah, this is how the normal data types were being declared in JavaScript. But now objects are complex data types and they're being stored in key value pairs. So here I can say let person equals, and here now the key can be name and the value you can pass Georges, and they are separated by commas. So you can pass in the next key as age and the value as 10, and you can even pass in the third one. You can say, what can we say? You can say success rate. Success rate, maybe you say 0.8. You save it. So this is how we create an object. This is the key and this is the value. You remember in variable declaration, we're just defining the variable and then directly passing the value. But in objects, you first create the variable. In our case, we can say person. Then in that variable, you open the curly braces, and in the curly braces, you define the key and the value pairs. Yeah, so that's a basic way of creating an object. And just like data types, you could assign let data equals null. For an empty data type, we could say let data let new data for an undefined data type. So for an object, you can also define an empty object. So you can say let empty object, then you equate it to the curly brackets. Always remember that the curly braces are the ones that are used to show that this is an object. Then there is this type of keyword that is used to show us the data type that has been initialized. When we were learning about data types, I did not introduce it, but now we can have the pleasure of seeing how we can use the type of keyword. So let me define a variable there. My age, say 10. Then I can say let status and equate status to the value true. We can also say let my array equals, I can leave it as that. So now if we log this to the console, let me just fire my terminal. Yeah, so I hope you can see the terminal now. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. So now if you run this script, first you'll notice that we don't have any output because we're not logging anything to the console. But now if you log all this to the console, so say log my age, you also log status, okay, you'll say my status. We can also log to the console my array, say my array, and you're also supposed to say let my object equals, we create an empty object. So you can also log to the console. I can log that to the console as my object. So now if you run this script, you see that we have the inputs of whatever you're having. Above this, we're also having my name, so you can also log my name to the console. My name. Yeah, so that's it. There you can see we now have the values printed to the console. But now if you do not know the type of the data type that you've passed to your value, you can use the type of keyword that will help you know that the type of data that you're passing to that specific variable. So now when you run this script, you see that you're told the first, the my name data type, the my name variable stores a data type string, the my age variable stores a data type number, the my status variable stores a data type boolean, and the my array and the my object data type store the keywords variable stores the data type object. So use the type of to know the object that, or rather the type of data that you just declared. Yeah, so that's it for the type of. And now let's dive more into objects. So now let's try and understand these objects in JavaScript. Here you've seen that we've declared an object. This we call an object literal because it's declared using the let keyword. So an object literal has properties, and this property stores the value. So like we said earlier, objects store data in key value pairs. So these values can also take functions. So for example, you can say hello. So a function can also be a property of an object. So in objects, we call these variables. These variables we call them properties, and these functions we call them methods. So the same way you are just declaring variables normally, now in objects they are called properties, and what you have the idea of knowing them as functions. In objects we call them methods. So you can also pass a string that should belong to the console, like say greetings, and you save it, and this is how you access the property of the object person. Just like all the other properties, that's how you access the method, or what you commonly known as functions. So when you run the script, you see greetings is logged to the console. There's greetings here. Then then the age, that is what we're having. Then the name. So all the three are logged to the console. And this comma defines something else, and that's why we are getting this undefined below it. So now you can even pass maybe complex stuff to the console in the method that you've just defined. For our case, let's use template literals and say welcome. And then you can pass in the name value of the object person. So to access this name of the object person, we must use the this keyword. We're going to learn more about it in this video. So you say this dot name, and this will output welcome and the value of the name here which you have as Georges. So let's run the script to confirm that. So you see that you have welcome Georges output to the console. So that's how to write a property of a method, and how to write a property of an object and a method of an object, and how to access them using the dot notation and the square brackets. So now let's learn of a second way of creating an object. Here we're going to learn about this keyword. We're also going to learn about things that we call constructors. So that was the first method, the one that we've just shown in our script. That was the basic example of creating an object in JavaScript. So that was the object literal notation. Now we want to use the constructor function for more complex objects. So let's go straight to the constructor functions. Here you can say function cook, and this cook can take some parameters, let's say the dish and the ingredient. So here, like you see, we have our function car that takes make and the model. Then now we want to pass this value to a variable. So you just come to this point and you say this dot dish. So you have to note that this first dish here is not the same as this one, but the one that you passed here, this is just a variable, but what you pass here is what you passed in as as an argument. Sorry. So you have this dot dish, and you also have this dot ingredient, and you equate it to whatever parameter you passed here. In our case, it's ingredient. Let's just pass it there, ingredient. So now here we have defined a cook function that takes into parameters, that is dish and ingredient, and we've used this keyword to access the current object of the current object. So that is what this keyword does. And now we can initialize, or rather instantiate, a class of this variable of this function cook. So you can say let meal1 equals cook, and then here you pass in this parameters that you want. So in our case, maybe you want our dish to be fish meal, and the ingredient that you're passing there is fish. So now how to output this value, these values? You just come to the console, and we can log that to the console, say meal1 using the dot notation. So meal1 dot what did we pass there? You can say meal1 dot dish. So when you run this script, you notice that there is an error saying it cannot read the properties of undefined. Why is this? This is because we are passing this cook function, but as we said, when we initialize a variable, an object using this keyword, then you have to call it using the new keyword. This new just tells us that this meal1 is an instance of this object. So that's how we use the new keyword. So let's clear the terminal and we rerun it. So now you see that meal1.dish is fish meal, and meal1.ingredient outputs fish as the ingredient. So just the same way that you are accessing these properties is the same way that you'll use the dot notation to access these properties. Still, you can use this other way. So let's just test that, and you see that we still have our dish which is fish meal being logged to the console, and our ingredient which is fish being logged to the console. So that is the second way of creating an object, and that is using the constructor function. This is used for complex objects, and you can have several instances of that object. Then accessing the properties, we already talked about that. So adding methods to allow objects to perform actions. Yeah, so we can say here we already added the message, the method hello, such that it outputs, it logs this welcome script to the console. You can also add another one. Let's say calculate date of birth. Then you pass in the curly braces. You know that we need curly braces to pass into the console, or rather into the function, whatever we want to do. So here we can say we want to return year of birth. But first we must define this year of birth. So let's say let year of birth equals our current year of birth. Our current year is 2023. Then we minus this dot age. You can remember we said that for you to access the property of the current object, then you have to use this keyword. So you say let year of birth equals 2024 minus this dot age. Then you return the year of birth. So now if you log this to the console, so let's log this to the console and say the object name, which is person, then the dot notation to access the property of the object. In our case, it's the method. So if you run this script, you're going to see 2014. You can just even here you can just see year of birth is okay. Yeah, just that. Yeah, so if you run this script, okay, sorry, concatenate this, you're going to see that the year of birth is 2014. So you can make your object to perform some calculations using methods, or what you commonly know as functions, and you can always pass in properties of several properties with different data types. You can separate properties using the commas, and once you're done, you can end this person object declaration with the semicolon. So that's it for the template. That's it for the object literal. As we have seen here, the object literal notation, the constructor function notation. That's how we access properties of an object. That's how we add methods to the object. And okay, we can say copying objects. So you want to copy this person object. Maybe you want to create a new person object that is exactly same as that. So I'm just commenting this out so that we can have a clean console and you can understand what is there. So you can declare here a new variable, say let copied person, copy person equals, then you pass as an array using the 3 dots. These 3 dots are known as spread operator, then the object that you're trying to copy. But because we are copying an object, this should not be a square bracket, but instead it should be those curly braces, sorry. So this is the object that you've copied. Now let's try accessing its values. Let's say console.log and say the object name, dot notation, and the property you're trying to access. The same way you can just say console.log the copy person, so that is the object dot name. Then that's the object name, sorry. Then the dot notation, and you add the property that you're trying to access. So if we run this script, we see that we have Georges being printed on both on the console for both values of person1 and copy person. So that is how you duplicate an object. You can try and see if maybe you can duplicate this copy person object. So let's say duplicate copy equals, and you pass in using the spread operator the copy person object, and you can try and access the copy person, the duplicate copy. The duplicate copy dot name. So if you run the script, you're going to see that we're still accessing the value of the name, and here initially the name was Georges. So we duplicated this object person and stored that value in a new object copy person. And again here we duplicated the copy person and stored the value in the duplicate copy object. So you can see that all the values are accessible via the console, via the terminal when you console.log. So you can also loop through an object properties using a for loop, and you can use the object.keys. So let's just put this into action. First, I'll comment all this out. So now you may want to iterate through this person object and output each and every value that is within the person object, that is the property name and the value that is passed to that property. So we are going to reuse the concept of for loops that we earlier learned. If you don't know about for loops, you can watch the previous videos. So we're going to say for, then you say const key in the object name. Here we have person as our object name, so in person, all we are going to do right now, we're just going to log to the console. Let's use the template literals and pass in the key. Okay, pass in the key, and here we pass in the person, and what you want to access is this value. So you remember we said you can use the dot notation or the array, or not the array but the square brackets. Yeah, here is where we use the square brackets. So we are going to access them using the square brackets, but what we're going to access is the key because we are iterating through the person object. So we are going to pass the key. So this is the key, and here we get the value. So for us to get the value, you must access it via the person object. So let's just run our console and we see what happens in the script. So now you see that we're iterating through this person object and we're outputting the properties and the values all through to the last of them. So here we have the name, the age, the success rate, the hello function, and the calculate DOB methods. The hello method and the calculate DOB method. So that's how to access the values of an object. Either way, you can also say sorry, let's just explain it. So let's run the script. You see here that you can output all of them, and that is what we've just explained in this line here. For const key in person, console.log key, and then the person's key. But you can also use the object.keys. This is an alternative to the for loop. So here you can just come and say const keys equals object.keys. Yeah, so that way you are passing these keys, which is the object.keys is what is going to iterate through the object, but now the object that you're going to iterate through is what you pass as a variable, as an argument to the object.keys, the .keys method of the object class. We're going to learn more about classes, and how you access it is just by logging keys to the console. Here keys, this keys is not a keyword, but this keys is a method name. So here you can say anything, say const property properties equals object dot keys, and then you pass the object that you're trying to iterate, and now you can log to the console these properties. So if you save it, first let's just comment this out, then we clear the terminal and we rerun the script. So now you see they're being passed but as an array. Only the values are being passed as an array. So you can see the name has been, not the value, but the property, sorry, they're being passed as an array. The name, the age, the success rate, the method hello, and the method calculate DOB. So that one is compared to this key that we were passing here. So that's it for objects, how to create them, how to access the properties, and the methods, how to add methods, how to copy complete objects, how to iterate over the objects. And in conclusion, we see that objects are fundamental in JavaScript since they allow us to organize and manipulate data efficiently. So as we explore more, as we dive deeper into JavaScript, we're going to explore more complex objects. There is the object-oriented programming in JavaScript, which tackles the inheritance, there is the encapsulation, there is polymorphism, and many more that we're going to learn as we continue with the objects in JavaScript. This README is going to be provided in the link in the YouTube description below. So just tap on that link, it will direct you to a repository that is hosted on GitHub, and there you can access these objects, README, and several other READMEs if you're not there in the previous classes. To this point, we wish to thank you for spending your time. We thank you for watching to this point. Have a happy coding week.